to Game Plan Preppers. My name is Bob Harris and I'm one of the founding members of Game Plan Preppers. Today we're going to spend a little time learning how to conduct a prepper party presentation. We have a lot of ground to cover today, so I'm just going to jump right in. Game Plan Preppers was created for a number of very important reasons, but the main point behind Game Plan Preppers was to bring emergency and disaster preparedness to mainstream America. People just like you and just like me. Our main goal is to help families and individuals to determine what types of emergencies and disasters might impact their lives and to provide them with a method to prepare and plan for those disasters in advance. So what we plan to do today is learn a little bit about emergency and disaster preparedness, and hopefully we'll have a little fun while we're at it. So let's get warmed up by testing our knowledge about certain aspects of survival. As you know, there are certain basic necessities that we all need to survive. We need air to breathe, we need water to drink, we need food to eat, and we need shelter to protect us from the elements. Now, some would have you believe that Starbucks coffee should also be on this list, but since science hasn't definitively proven that we need Starbucks to survive, we're going to stick with these 4 items for now. All right, so as we think about the basic necessities and what we need to survive, you can see that we've got those listed on the left, and over on the right we're going to think about it in terms of the rule of threes. So there's certain times that correspond to those survival needs that all have the number 3 in them. For example, air. For air, the average human being needs about 3 minutes, can go about 3 minutes without air. In reality, it's different for every person. The average is 3 minutes, but the world record for one holding their breath and depriving themselves of air is about 15 minutes. So it can be quite a large fluctuation, but on average it's about 3. As far as water goes, it's about 3 days. Now that's not too surprising given the fact that our bodies are made up of about 2/3 water. So after about a day or so, your body recognizes it's missing its main ingredient and it begins to shut down. When it comes to food, we can make it quite a bit longer, about 3 weeks. Now, what you need to know about that is, after about the first day, your body starts to shut down, progressively over time getting worse. And so you might start with hunger pains, but beyond that, you'll start having nausea, dizziness, blurred vision, headaches, and even worse as time progresses until eventually your body will shut down because it has a lack of nutrition. And then the last item is shelter. And for shelter, it's 3 hours. Now, granted, you may be thinking, if you're sitting on a beach with your favorite cold beverage, you could probably last a little longer than 3 hours. But what we're referring to here is how long the human body can withstand extreme temperatures or extreme conditions without proper shelter or clothing. And so, right now you can see about 3 hours. What happens to the human body after being exposed to extreme heat or extreme cold is it loses its ability to regulate its own body temperature. Eventually it will go haywire, you'll go into shock, and your body will shut down. Okay? So what we wanted to point out here is just the rule of threes, and keeping in mind that there are certain needs that everyone has in order to survive, and each of those needs correspond to the number 3 in some way. So speaking of survival, how many of you remember what happened in Greensburg, Kansas in 2007? Or Joplin, Missouri in 2011? Or even Moore, Oklahoma in 2013? What happened was deadly, destructive tornadoes. And you may know someone who was impacted by one of these particular disasters or something like it throughout the years. And the Joplin, Missouri tornado, for example, was known as one of the deadliest tornadoes since 1947 in the United States. In fact, that particular tornado killed over 150 people in Joplin, Missouri, and left over 1,150 injured. It was also known as one of the costliest tornadoes in U.S. history. The estimates are somewhere around $2.8 billion worth of damage that it did. At this point in the presentation, what I'd like for you to do is find someone in the audience that you haven't introduced yourself to. Introduce yourself, and for about 30 seconds share a memory or an experience that you've had regarding tornadoes or a particular disaster that you've experienced. All right. Now, Tornadoes are certainly one example of the types of disasters and emergencies that we face over time, but there are certainly many, many more. And as you can see from this slide, there are lots of different disasters or emergencies that can occur throughout our lives. I mean, we are humans, there's a lot of us on this earth, and due to the fact that we have an atmosphere, disasters and emergencies, weather-related, etc., happen all the time. This is honestly just the starting point, and if we took some time and we did some brainstorming, we could probably come up with even more disasters and emergencies that could affect us or impact us and our families. Now what I'd like to do is share with you some news headlines from across the United States that relate to particular emergencies and disasters, different types. And I'd encourage you to think through what types of disasters or emergencies we're talking about as I read each of these headlines. Global stock markets fall amid oil rout. Blizzard Jonas storm surge could cause record flooding. Wintertime floods among the costliest ever. DC hasn't seen a blizzard like this in nearly 100 years. Alex becomes the first Atlantic hurricane born since 1938. How water crisis in Flint, Michigan became federal state of emergency. Mississippi River flooding to threaten more levees, homes after leaving St. Louis area submerged. Alaska hit by powerful 7.1 earthquake. And 30 dead, hundreds of thousands without power in the Northeast. Now I mentioned that all of these headlines were related to various types of emergencies and disasters that were occurring across the United States. What you may not realize is they have one more thing in common, and that's that all of these news headlines came from the month of January alone in 2016. So all of these different types of emergencies and disasters, if they weren't impacting you directly, they were probably impacting someone you know. Now, emergencies and disasters are clearly prominent in the United States. In fact, they're so prominent that different organizations have created what we call disaster maps. And this particular map shows by region the types of disasters that are most likely to occur in each region. For example, our headquarters of Game Plan Preppers is in Olathe, Kansas, right outside of Kansas City. That's in Region 7. The types of disasters that we are prone to in this area include severe storms, floods, winter storms, earthquakes, wildfires, tornadoes, pandemics, and economic downturns. Now, it's not to say that some of the other disasters couldn't also occur in this area, but those are the ones that are most likely to occur. And for anyone who's lived in this area for any given period of time, they are likely to have been impacted by one of those types of disasters. All right, so we've started with tornadoes, and we're going to talk about those just a little while longer. But first I just want to bring to your attention, we're going to spend a little time talking about specific types of disasters, and the reason we're doing that is not really to focus on gloom and doom, but really because the more we know about each of these types of emergencies and disasters, the better prepared we can be for them. So let's cover some statistics on tornadoes. Over 1,200 tornadoes hit the United States each and every year, and every state is at risk. 75% of the tornadoes that occur in the world happen in the United States, so you are much more prone to encounter a tornado in the U.S. than you are anywhere else in the world. And then finally, tornado damage paths can be in excess of 1 mile wide and 50 miles long. I mentioned the Greensburg, Kansas tornado earlier, and that particular tornado was estimated at 1.7 miles wide, and that was actually wider than the entire town. And it cut a path through the middle of Kansas about 22 miles long. Floods. Let's see what we know about floods. Floods cause over $6 billion a year in damage in the United States. Floods are the #1 cause of weather-related deaths in the United States. And over the last 20 years, 100-year floods have been occurring across the globe with frightening regularity. Now, for those of you who aren't really familiar with what a 100-year flood is, it is basically a flood that is significant enough that occurs in a particular area. It only has 1% chance of happening in any given year. And those, as the slide shows, are happening more and more frequently across the world. Right, so blizzards and winter weather. Let's talk a little bit about those. Did you know a single snowstorm can drop 39 million tons of snow? Snowstorms are the #1 cause of blackouts across the United States. And hypothermia can occur as body temperatures reach 95 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. And we talked about the need for and the basic necessity of having shelter and proper clothing when we were talking about the rule of threes, so you may recall that. So epidemics and pandemics. Some of you may be familiar with the difference between epidemics and pandemics. Just for your information, an epidemic is a disease that has spread to a larger population or a larger geographic area than normal. And a pandemic is an epidemic that occurs worldwide or in a very large region. So during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, up to 40% of the world's population was affected and millions died from it. Now that was about a century ago, so let's take a look more recent. In 2009, less than a decade ago, the bird flu caused almost 250,000 deaths worldwide. And the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, it's known as the deadliest plague known to mankind, and that's because it's been around for more than 2,000 years. There's actually not a preventive cure for the Black Death or bubonic plague. We do see cases found in the United States and across the world each and every year, and from time to time we do have fatalities in the United States as a result of the Black Death. Just a little side note, you may be familiar with the children's nursery rhyme, Ring Around the Rosie. That was actually a song that children sang about the Black Death many, many years ago. And blackouts. Most people have experienced blackouts of some form or another throughout their lifetimes. A lot of that has to do with the aging infrastructure of our electric grid. What most people don't realize is that the U.S. electric grid was created around the turn of the last century, not the most recent century. So we're talking the late 1800s, early 1900s. So it's still very fragile and weak. It doesn't take very much to impact it or affect it. A perfect example of this was the Northeast blackout in 2003. What had occurred there was some power lines got entangled with some tree branches, and it caused actually a cascading power failure throughout the Northeast all the way up into Canada, resulting in about 50 million Americans being without power. Now currently there are only about 320 million Americans living in America now, so that's about 1 in 6 that would have been without power. Now in 2004, something to consider is that Congress warned that an EMP attack could cause a massive blackout that could potentially shut down electric power transmission for months, and in some cases, some recommend or suggest that it could last for even years. An EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse, and these types of pulses can occur naturally through things like lightning strikes and solar flares, but they can also be man-made through terrorist weapons and the like. So just keep in mind that that's something that Congress has been warning about for more than a decade, and these types of blackouts are even more critical or more disconcerting than a normal blackout from the standpoint that they affect more than just the power and electricity that goes into your home. It could impact anything with electronic circuitry like your phones and communication, your vehicles, planes flying through the air, etc. So they can be quite an impact. All right, now we've talked about several different types of emergencies and disasters, and our goal here today wasn't really to have you focus on doom and gloom and depress you or scare you by any means. Our goal really is a focus of helping people better understand what types of emergencies and disasters are out there, and then better preparing for those disasters by understanding how they work and what to prepare for. So as you can see from this slide, our true goal at Game Plan Preppers is to provide a family-friendly prepping environment that offers easy, accessible, and affordable prepping services to mainstream America. It's as simple as that. We don't focus on the doom and gloom. We see it more as a glass half full rather than a glass half empty, and we focus on taking proactive positive measures in preparing for these types of emergencies and disasters. Now, many of you may have heard of or seen this phrase before: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Now, some people know who said this. I will tell you it's Benjamin Franklin, pretty smart guy. Now, at Game Plan Preppers, many of you, if you've met Shawn and I, two of the founders, we have about 20 years experience each in helping individuals and families prepare for their financial security, for their financial future. And so what we've done is we've taken that same concept of planning and preparing and applied it to emergency and disaster preparedness. We still feel like it's extremely important for families to be prepared for their financial future and get their finances in order, but we think it's critical that families start preparing for and planning for the types of emergencies and disasters that could occur on a day-to-day basis in order to protect the well-being and the security of their family. Now, when it comes to plans, it's important that you take into consideration all different types of emergencies and disasters. And one of the things that Shawn and I and the rest of the founding members believe strongly in is the importance of having a plan in order to be prepared. So the personalized emergency game plans that we put together take into consideration a number of different types of emergencies and disasters that could occur. We've got most of them listed here on this screen. And so it takes into consideration things like natural disasters, man-made disasters, financial disasters, weather-related disasters, and even terrorist attacks. Those are all the different types of things that you need to consider in putting together your personalized emergency game plan. What makes it personalized is the fact that we take into consideration certain aspects of your personal situation. For instance, the size of your family, the amount of time that you want to prepare for, specific concerns that you may have, and the geographic region that you may live in. Those are all of the different types of things that we must consider in making sure that your plan is personalized for you and your family. In addition to that, the plans that we put together for you and your family include different steps to take before, during, and after an emergency. Our plans also include such items as crime prevention plans, fire safety plans, emergency evacuation plans, and shelter-in-place plans. And what makes it unique is that once we put these plans together for you and help you figure out what you need to do to prepare, we will also recommend certain action items and different types of supplies and resources that you need in order to actually implement your plan. A good example of that would be the amount of water and food that your family might need for certain types of emergencies and disasters. Stop it. So having a well-conceived game plan in times of emergency could mean the difference between life and death. And that's why most emergency responders will always have a plan for any particular situation, and they'll practice and they'll rehearse that plan until they have it down right. Now, there's something I want to share with you now that I think is critically important. Not too long ago, members of our founding team of managers here, we participated in a CERT class that was sponsored by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, and conducted by our local fire department. It was a fantastic program and we highly recommend it. But something came out of that program, some information that we weren't aware of in advance, that really shed some light on the importance of these programs and emergency and disaster preparedness in general. If you don't know, CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team, and these types of programs are going on and conducted throughout the United States all year long. And the reason they're conducted is to allow community volunteers to put themselves in a position to be able to assist other members of the community in the event of a wide-scale emergency or disaster. Now, one of the fundamental notions that the fire department brought to our attention during this course was the fact that in the event of a wide-scale emergency or disaster, there's not going to be enough of them to go around. And that's why these CERT programs are in existence. Now, what does that mean to you and me? That means that we're going to be expected as civilians, citizens in the community, to fend for ourselves for days, maybe even weeks, depending on the circumstances. So what they're suggesting is that we prepare for ourselves in making sure that we have all the necessary supplies, resources, training, and know-how to be able to hold our own until emergency responders can arrive. And so that's why it's critically important for all of us to be prepared in order to help manage in the event of these types of emergencies for ourselves, for our families, and for other members of the community. And that's just a message that we wanted to share with you. So in addition to having a plan, we recommend that all of our clients also prepare by having the necessary supplies and resources to be ready for certain types of emergencies and disasters. And many people have their own thoughts and ideas as to what they would have in their emergency kit. What we've done is we've tried to make it simple by putting all of the necessary supplies and resources into one 72-hour emergency bag just for you and your family. So next up, Shawn is going to spend a little time walking you through what's the contents of that bag and how you might use it to prepare for an emergency or disaster.
Hi, I'm Shawn Tipping with Game Plan Preppers. Today we're here to talk about our pre-built kit. It's built for 72 hours. It's made by Fox Tactical, so it's a really good quality bag. It has MOLLE webbing, and we're going to go through some of the things that are stored inside this bag to help you get through emergencies and disasters. So the first thing that we picked was this flashlight. We love it because it's hand crank and solar, so you don't ever have to worry about it running out of power. Anytime it gets low or starts to dim, you crank it up. For about 60 seconds, it's going to give you 2 to 3 hours worth of light. The other thing that we added in for light are these chem sticks, and basically you break them, you can drop them in the middle of a room. It's going to give you enough light to see around. It's not going to be super bright, but you'll be able to see things and not bump into them. You can also slide them into the MOLLE webbing, so if you're out at night hiking with one, you'll be able to see each other and you can stay together as a group if you have these. So very helpful. The next area that we cover is medical, and so inside of it we have N95 masks that are designed to keep particles and dust from getting into your lungs, and so these are very helpful in any kind of a disaster where homes and buildings have all these fibers that get into the air that you can breathe into your lungs. It's very dangerous, and so during a disaster these things can come in quite handy. The other thing that we added was a 64-page first aid guide. And in it, it talks about CPR and AED and other first aid items. So you can kind of walk through the book and it teaches you how to do some simple first aid things. There's also a pretty simple first aid kit. It's got 107 pieces in it. There's bandages and Q-tips and sterile pads and all those types of things that would come in handy if you were to be injured. We also added some insect relief things, and these are pretty interesting products. The insect sting wipes, if you get stung, you just put it on there and it helps to ease the sting pain. And these are insect repellent wipes, and so you basically would rub them all over yourself and it keeps the bugs away. So very good and very helpful, especially if you're outside and you're in a situation where you have mosquitoes and other things that are starting to kind of get on you. You don't want those there. So the next area that we talk about is basically things that can help keep you warm or provide light, those types of things. We want to be able to start fire, obviously. So we have a few items that we get into that help with that. Obviously matches, waterproof. We also have the flint striker so that you can use that to start a fire if you needed to. We also talk about a little here the emergency survival blanket. So these are designed to help keep your body heat in, so they're very helpful there. The small emergency poncho just basically can help keep you dry, and we know if we stay dry, it's a lot easier to stay warm, so we want to be able to do that. We also have these candles. They light for 36 hours, so there's 2 of them, covers you for 72 hours. The other thing that's nice about the candles is that you can buff the bottoms of these and they can turn into signal mirrors, so if you had to use that to kind of let people know where you are, you can do that as well. Also have these body warmers. You can use these in conjunction with the blanket. So you put the blanket on, you can put yourself underneath it and put these and they'll kind of help keep you warm. They last for about 12 hours each. There's 3 of them in there. We also have a tarp. So it's pretty basic, but you can use tarps for just about anything. You can help shelter yourself from bad weather. You can put them down on the ground to keep yourself from getting wet. If the ground's wet, you can do lots of different things with these. So very helpful. The next area that we get into is food. So we have a small stove with heating fuel, and you can use that to boil water or heat things up. So it helps to gives you a place to go to cook food and those types of things. We also have a stainless steel cook set. So you have a spoon, a fork, and if you get really desperate, you can open up a bottle of wine. So very nice and handy. There's also a bottle opener and a can opener attached. We work with SOS Food Labs, which is a company that has been around for a long time. They have created a formula that helps to give you both nourishment, but it also is non-thirst provoking. It withstands extreme heat, extreme cold. There's a lot of good benefits to it. But the thing that we like most about it is that it actually tastes good, and you can store them basically anywhere. So you have them in Mylar sealed bags, helps to keep out bacteria, germs, and those types of things. So these have flavor. They're called Millennium Bars. These are, they taste a lot like pie crust as far as when we all have taste tested them. They taste a lot like pie crust, and they're actually quite good. So there's 2,400 calories for each brick here. Each one of these are 6. There's 400 calories in each one of these. So you end up with enough calories to make it for 72 hours. And I'm going to come to the other side of the table. When we talk a little bit about the hygiene kit, we have two versions. There's a male version and a female version. So it covers you with different types of soap and things that can help keep yourself clean. We all know that bacteria and germs, as they grow on you, it can help make you sick. So you want to try and be able to keep that stuff away. Soap, obviously, is one of the best ways to do that, soap and water. A lot of people have always asked about toilet paper. So it's always nice to have. We have three pieces in, one bag for each day. And I'm going to kind of work my way from the front now and go back. And so we have nylon rope, 100 feet, very helpful. We have can openers. There's a set of 2 that helps you to open up cans of food that you may already have stored in your long-term food storage. We have a nice shovel that we chose because it's made out of metal. There's not plastic involved, so it's a very good quality, good solid tool that you will be able to use for lots of different things. Good pair of sturdy work gloves. A survival whistle that actually has 7 different tools in it. There's a thermometer, a compass, a mini light, and a whistle. And a lanyard where you can keep track of it. And the next item that we have in here is the earthquake survival tool. What it is a main gas shutoff valve tool. So you can use it to turn your gas off. A lot of times if a tornado or an earthquake or those types of things, they do damage to the gas lines. You want to be able to shut them off so that they don't cause more damage to your home. Another tool that we added in here was essentially it's a small axe, but it also has multi-functions to it. And so you have actually a wrench, a pair of wire cutters, a hammer. You could get through a wall if you needed to. So just breaking through drywall. You're not going to cut down any big trees with it, but you can use it to maybe get out of your home if you had to, those types of things. Or just lots of different things, finding twigs and branches that you might be able to use to start fires and that type of thing. So it's very handy, and it's not very heavy, so we really like it, but it's made out of good quality. It's stainless steel. The next section that we talk about is water. Water is one of the most important things that you are going to want to have with you. And so what we've done is we've given you 3 options for water. One is water that's already clean and ready to drink, and it comes inside of a bag that is also a water storage bag. So once you use the pouches, you can fill these bags up and store more water in them. So we have 3 bags of these. And we also have Chlorflock water purification tablets, and basically you would use these to treat up to 8 gallons of water. So FEMA recommends 1 gallon per day per person for use. This covers 8, so really it helps to provide sterilized water for you for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, that type of thing. And then we also have the Seychelles water bottle, and it's great for drinking water right out of a river if you had to. So you always have access to water somewhere. So you've got clean water to drink immediately, you have the ability to sterilize your water, and then you have the ability to filter your water through the bottle. So that is the essentials of our 72-hour bag, and again, it comes with a Fox tactical bag. That's kind of the loop around the whole table, and that's the product for you. Thank you. So now what I want to cover is our 12-month Build-A-Bag subscription. And so one of our mission statement items is we want to make prepping affordable. And so we use this method to help a lot of people afford to build a bag and create something. So, and it's also designed for our clients that want more than just the basics, basically. And so what we get into is we start off with a jumbo-sized tactical bag, and it's also made by Fox Tactical, 1200 denier. It's a extremely good quality, well-made bag. It also has the MOLLE webbing, so you can add attachments to it and kind of personalize it if you want to. And so what we've done with a subscription is you start off with the bag, it's $100. You move into the conversation about water, food, fire, first aid, light, hygiene. There's a car kit that comes with it one of the months. And so as you're moving through each month, we're sending you 1 month supply. So you start with the bag at $100, and then $50 a month is a subscription price. And at the end of 12 months, you have a package that covers each one of these items that you see on the board. So that's basically our subscription kit. It's pretty simple, very affordable, and you can buy them in increments of $50. So if you're trying to prepare for 2 people, then you would buy 2 bags and do $100 a month, and you get double the stuff. 3 people, 4 people, and you can continue that way as many people as you want to add. These are the items that come in the subscription. So each month you can see it's got a good set of different product mix that covers all the different categories that you would want to cover to create a survival kit for yourself. The next section we also have is a 12-month food storage subscription, and it's really simple. It's for food. You're trying to build up a store of food for one person, and you can buy them in increments of $50 as well. So you start off with $100, and you also get the jumbo bag. So if you do this subscription or the other subscription, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the jumbo bag, but you're also going to get the different food items that you see on the board. And so it's a good mix of dehydrated food and ration bars and Millennium bars. We include 1 water month, so it adds another filtration bottle, some more water purification tablets. And the dehydrated food, what you run into with that is, why we want you to have a good mix is, you may not always be able to prepare or boil water, for example, and the dehydrated food requires you to boil water for it to cook and eat. So we want to be able to have things that you don't have to prepare added into the mix of things that you might need to prepare, added into the mix of things that you're already storing. So a lot of times people will store cans of tuna fish or meat, proteins, that kind of stuff, jars of peanut butter and that kind of thing. The nice thing about all of this stuff, the SOS products are all 5-year shelf life, and the Numana is the company that we use for dehydrated food, is 25-year shelf life. So really good mix of products and very helpful for people. So want to cover the fact that you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, and Pinterest, and LinkedIn, and YouTube. Obviously these videos will be on YouTube for you to enjoy. The idea for us is we want you to follow us because we provide good information on a regular basis. We're always writing blog articles that cover different topics that are of interest to people that are trying to be ready for the different types of disasters and emergencies that we might face. The brochure that we have, we've created a brochure called the Prepper Party Must-Haves. And so when you're doing a prepper party, the big thing is you're talking to a group of people. They're going to want to be able to see the items, close-up pictures and that type of thing. You're going to have the display out, so they're going to be able to come up and see things. And a lot of people like to mess with the flashlight or just feel the water bags and just go through all the different items and see what's there. So the Prepper Party Must-Haves are all items that you should carry with you when you go to a party, at least one as a display item so they can see it. Some of the items, some of the smaller items, you may want to carry a supply of, because you're more likely to sell them at the party. If you have 10 flashlights, you might sell 4 or 5 or 6 of them all at once, and it saves shipping, and it helps to make more profit for you and for us. The order form, pretty simple. You go through, depending on what state you're in, you can worry about sales taxes and shipping and then totaling everything. But essentially you quantity, price, add it all up. You can subscribe. The important stuff, obviously the credit card information and making sure that the person purchasing signs for the packet or signs for the credit card purchases, especially on a subscription, because we're going to reoccurringly charge them. So we want to make sure that we have their signature on file. This game plan survey is the same questionnaire that you run into on our website. And so when you're at a prepper party and you're talking to people, you're going to want them to fill the survey out. They go through the whole process. They're going to fill out their name, their email address, and that type of information. So you'll be able to you'll be able to follow up with them, which is a big important part of any sales type situation. So if you get them to fill the survey out, then they have enough interest that they took the time to ask the questions. But more importantly, it makes them think about what's going on. And so as you ask them questions like, have you established a written family communication plan? Well, if they answer no, now they're thinking about that. And so we can help guide them through that planning process, and that's really one of our huge value adds. That's one of our important products that we want you to make sure that you're talking to clients about. We always recommend that you have special offers available, and we don't really necessarily dictate what those are, so you can decide what you want to do. And in your area it may be different. Some states are different than other states, obviously. So when we do prepper parties in Kansas and the Midwest, we typically will offer a reduced price off of the emergency plan or a combination. So you may say, we'll do an emergency plan for $75 if you buy a pre-built kit, or you can do lots of different combinations, and you can kind of decide what you're going to do. It's all based on your profit margin and kind of what you're trying to make out of your parties and off your products that you're selling. So that kind of takes us to the end of our presentation about prepper parties and what they look like as you go through the process. Bob did a great job going through the first half of it up to the demo. The demo part is very important. You're going to want to go through the items, let them see some of the more important items, the flashlight. Anything that you also sell individually is a good product to take out of the bag and let them pass around and mess with. So for example, the hammer or the flashlight or the water filtration bottle, something to just let people see and view. And so as always, you can contact us through our website. You can email us at customerservice@gameplanpreppers.com. You can visit our website at www.gameplanpreppers.com, and we are again on all the social media outlets. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, get the information that you need for yourself and for your clients. Thank you.